Hi, my name is Andrea, and this is my very first video for YouTube. And so it's gonna be probably scattered and all over the place. But I wanted to make it because I wanted to, I've watched so many videos of my own, or of all these other people and what they went through, and I wanted to share what I went through. And I wish that I had done the videos at the time that it was happening, but I was under so much stress, and just the last thing that I could even think about was recording what I was going through, even though I wanted to. There were a couple videos that I did make, like in the car on my lunch break at work, and then I ended up deleting them because I'm like, I'm not doing that. So, because I didn't want to come across negative, but the things that I'm going to say in this video are pretty darn negative. So if you want to watch, keep on watching. And I know a lot of you can relate to this. So it's all about my IVF situation, what I went through, and the doctors I met, and the things that the doctors said to me, and the things that I went through unnecessarily, a whole bunch of stuff. So I'll get right to it. All right, so, and today is January 12th, 2019. I met my husband at the very tail end of, like, we're talking December 28th of 2012. Basically, it was right from the start. He was perfect for me. Finally, the search is over. I found somebody great. So we dated all of 2013, and we got married April 4th, 2014. And I told him, and so I was 36 at the time. And I said, and he was like, oh gosh, he's like 5.5 years. So he was 42, 41, something like that. So I think he was 42. I think he was 42, and because I was about to turn 37, because my birthday is April 20th. So, but I was technically 36 when we got married. I said, I want to have a baby right away, like now, yesterday. It has to happen right away because I am 36 years old. I probably don't have a lot of eggs left. Time is ticking. We got to get on this. So, and he of course, like so many say, oh, let's wait a year, or let's just wait, or even a couple of months. I'm like, no, we're starting right now. We're starting today. So I convinced him. So we started trying pretty much on the honeymoon. We went on a cruise. Had been trying from the very beginning to get pregnant. Let me just say one thing real quick. He had been married before, and he was married for 10 years before his divorce. But halfway through, things got rocky and bad. But he knew he never, ever wanted to have children with her. And so they always used protection because he never wanted to have children with her. So he never had any children from the past. And of course, neither did I, because I had not been married yet and I never tried to get pregnant before. So around September of 2014, nothing had happened, no pregnancy, nothing. And I mean, since day one, I was buying ovulation predictor kits, the kind with the 2 lines from First Response. Always positive, like always. And that's when I learned that my ovulation day is day 13 of my period, and my periods run 25 days. And so by September, I had discovered YouTube. YouTube had been out forever, but I'd never really watched anything on YouTube or anything. And so I had gone home for a vacation, home being Washington State, because I live in Florida right now. And so I went home to Washington State to just see family, see my friends and everything. And I started watching YouTube videos in my room at night. And I would watch, I found Ellie and Jared. They were doing something. And that's when I was like, what is this? I didn't understand what was going on. It was like a show. And I thought, I don't understand. This is just like a show. But it's cool, and I liked it. And then, but then I searched for other videos, and I discovered all the fertilization videos. So I was watching all these videos on fertilization, and there's this one video, it's like set to like this dramatic classical music where all the sperm shoot out, and then they race to get to the egg. And so I was always watching those videos, and just all about fertilization and how it happens and when to do it, and just all those details. And then the videos switch to, anyway, vacation over, time going on, of course, go back Florida, keep watching videos, start watching the pregnancy test videos. And I'm crying, you know, because it's just so wonderful. People getting pregnant and they find out, you know, and you're watching it and you're getting all excited for them and everything. And, you know, and so all the while I'm trying every month. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing as far as when to do it. And my husband was getting worn down. He's like, this isn't, you know, he would start complaining. I'm like, I can't believe you're a man and you're complaining that I want to have sex with you. Like, really? You know, you're complaining that I just, you know, anyway. So, but I'm like, we're doing it. So anyway, but that's the way it was. And so that ended 2014. The beginning of 2015, same thing. In May, I was ovulating and hoping that I was conceiving, and I got into a car wreck. My light turned green, and so I entered the intersection, and a Ford F-150 came and smashed into my Mazda 3. Paid for, by the way. I had just paid it off after having it for 7 years. Brand new, and I had just gotten to pay it off, and I was going to have no more car payments, and of course I kept it in mint condition, so totally his fault. And the police came and everything, and the only damage I had, because he was coming at me full, you know, it was only 35 miles an hour I think that he was driving, 35 or 40, but all I got was a burn on my left inside of my wrist, forearm area from the airbag. So that was the only injury I got. But my blood pressure was so high that my mind immediately goes to, oh, well, I'm not going to conceive now because I just had a tragic, you know, accident and my blood pressure's through the roof and I'm so stressed out, I'm not going to get pregnant. And so I figured that's why I wasn't getting pregnant when, you know, during that time. A couple months later in July, found out I had internal root resorption on my lower front tooth. I'm a dental assistant, so that's traumatic. I'm a dental assistant and I'm going to lose a lower front tooth. So that's going to affect my job somehow. So I had to have the lower tooth removed and an implant placed. So that was surgery there. So I figured I wasn't getting pregnant because of that whole thing, because of the stress of that. On top of that, of the implant surgery, I then decided I needed to act now and have my varicose veins removed out of my legs, because I had a few and they hurt my legs. Like, you know, my husband would sometimes squeeze like above my knee and it just felt so good. And I'm like, why, you know, it's like, wonder why it hurts like that. Well, it was because of the varicose veins, which is hereditary. So I had the varicose veins removed one leg at a time, and then they had to go back into another, you know, they did one leg, they did the other leg, then they had to go back into the calf of the other leg. So I just, all that year of 2015, I figured I wasn't getting pregnant because of all that stuff going on. But by fall of 2015, I'm like, okay, now's the time. Now I'm totally going to get pregnant. All the things are gone. Those things of the past and all the stress and everything is gone. Well, we still weren't pregnant. And finally, in December of 2015, I made an OB appointment. And I mean, I remember calling her saying, yes, you know, I'm trying to get pregnant. Oh, congratulations, you know. No, I'm not pregnant right now. I'm just trying to get pregnant. And so she set me up with an appointment. So I went in and met the doctor. It was a female doctor. I told her about how I was trying to get pregnant, and I told her that it just, you know, she said, how long have you been trying? And I said, since day one of the honeymoon. When was that? You know, so it'd been over a year and a half. And she said, do you take the ovulation predictor kits? And I said, yes. She goes, what are the results? I said, it's positive every time. And she said, oh. And she said, I think you might need to have your husband tested. And I can't believe, it's so funny how you hear your whole life, or you always talk about and joke about men that are just, I mean, you just make men out to be so fertile that they can sneeze in your direction and you'll get pregnant. Like, you always hear that. My husband just looks at me and I get pregnant. And, you know, you never ever think that a man, I never did think that men could have problems. Never did. You always blame the woman, which I hate that. It's always the woman's fault, it seems like. And so, because my whole family is very fertile. My mom, my sister, my cousins, my aunts, there's not one person my aunt kind of struggled for a little while, but eventually got pregnant with my cousin. So just really unheard of. So I just knew that my family history was very fertile. And so I had to be fertile too. So she said, well, first thing then is to have your husband tested. So she gave me the number of a doctor in Sarasota. He's a genetic specialist. So I make an appointment for his semen analysis, and it was just like that movie with Billy Crystal, I think. Forget Paris. Yeah. Where he's racing down the street with his sperm in a bag and gets pulled over. And I felt like that because I had met my husband at the gym. I made him because I had to work, and we had, so I take I pick up the bag from the fertility clinic. I go to his gym. I make him go in the cup at the gym. And then I take the bag and race it back because they said it had to be back within 45 minutes. And so I get back to the fertility clinic. They have to buzz you in because it's locked, which is weird. And so I'm buzzed in, and I give him the bag, like I'm all out of breath and everything. And I'm like, here it is, And she just takes it. And I think she set it on the floor on the other side of the desk. And then I think she was a nurse. She strolls in, just so unmotivated. I'm thinking they're going to come in and whisk it away, but they didn't. They just were all nonchalant about the whole thing, didn't give a rip. This fertility clinic was awful, by the way. The only good thing there is the doctor. The doctor was wonderful, compassionate, very sensitive to people, really loves his job, apparently. Really good with people and really caring. And his staff are horrible. The two women up front were just evil, especially one that used to be a cop. She told us how she used to be a cop on the SWAT team or whatever. Don't hire people like that, that are supposed to be sympathetic or whatever to people going through the most stressful time of their life. Don't hire an ex-cop from the SWAT team that has a grudge against the world. So she was horrible and rude. Oh my gosh. The stories I could tell about, just hearing her on the phone with patients, yelling at them and getting off the phone and, I can't believe, so unprofessional. Anyway, I think I was in the car when the test results came in a few days later. I had to call. I'm like, are his test results in? We're going to give that back to your doctor, and not call me. And so they finally did, and I had to call the other doctor's office, the OB's office, to find out. And they finally told me, so that she read it to me over the phone. She said that his sperm count was 1.4 million. And I didn't know anything about anything, but I knew that couldn't be good because you always hear there's millions and trillions or whatever. And she said, that's really low. And I just burst into tears, and I thought, I cannot believe this. And she said, the doctor wants to have a consultation with you. I made an appointment, cried about it a lot, just in the meantime. Finally, I drove down there to have an appointment, and I can't remember exactly how it came about, but I talked to them on the phone before I went in, and she goes, oh no, it's not an in-person appointment, it's an on-the-phone consultation. I'm like, nobody told me this was a phone consultation. So that was upsetting. So, because here I was early, and then I get on the phone with the doctor, and he basically, he wasn't shouting at me, but out of urgency, we've got to do something. We've got to freeze his sperm now. He's like, I don't know if his sperm are going up or going down. And he goes, and how old are you? And by then I was 38. You're at the end of your maternal age. And if you don't do something now, you're losing eggs too. And so really, really freaked me out, got me so emotional and upset. And then I'm charged with caffeine and sugar. So I get off the phone with him, and I'm freaking out and I have to go back to work. And it was a day of work that I really didn't have to be there actually. So I just called in and said, I'm just not gonna come back, I think I said, or something, I don't remember. Went home, I did a bad thing. I went to the store, got a bottle of wine, and was drunk by 1 p.m. I'm sorry. I just sat on my lanai and I drank a bottle of red wine and I just cried and cried and cried. I'm just being real. I cried and cried and cried. My life was over. It was over, to me, because this is what I've wanted my whole life. And to finally, you think you're never going to get married when you're late 30s, and you think that's all you have to do is get married. And that's all I thought I had to do. I thought marriage came with kids. I thought that it was a package deal. I finally meet somebody great, somebody I really get along with, somebody who is so good for me. And to finally do that and to try to get pregnant, and then he doesn't have any sperm. I freaked out. And then things started going downhill. I can't remember the percentage of couples that stay together at this point. It's very, very high, the people that get divorces. And we could have headed in that direction because he very calmly offered me a divorce because he didn't want to be the reason that I never got to live out my dream of having children. We already have 4 dogs, so those have been our fur kids for the last 4 years. So we had the fur babies, but I wanted babies. And so he offered me the divorce, and it was hard. Oh my gosh, because I considered it, but then I would picture my life without him, and I'm like, I can't do that. It just makes me sick to my stomach. The thought of leaving my husband, like, I can't do that. And you think about your vows, like for better or for worse. Like if you really stood at the altar and you actually named the things that can happen, burned in a fire, go into crazy debt, lose everything, don't get to have kids when that's all you've ever wanted in your life. How many people would continue on with the ceremony? It's just, oh yeah, for better or for worse. Okay. I do. Not really thinking about what that means. And this was the for worse. This was our for worse. It was the worst thing I've ever been through my entire life. There are worse things, cancer and death and all that stuff, which I've had plenty of death in my family in the last couple years anyway. So no more dying is allowed. But this was unbelievable. Couldn't handle it, didn't know what to do. Went to YouTube again to look for other people with other stories, try to figure out what they're doing. So anyway, the doctor was like, you have to do IVF. And I'm like, I am not doing IVF. I really was closed-minded about it. I'm like, that's playing God and that's forcing things when it should happen naturally. And, and I don't want to do that. And then there were videos on, the correctable birth defects that IVF children have. And it's 7% versus the 3 or 4%. I can't remember what of, versus natural spontaneous pregnancies. And I'm like, what's a correctable birth defect? Like, I didn't even go there. I'm like, I just don't want to do that. And plus I just thought, I'm just going to pray and God's just going to do a miracle. So that was going on. So that was the very beginning of 2016. And so the entire year of 2016, I looked up diet, like what could he be eating? What could he eat to up his motility? Because it was everything. Motility was non-existent. It's almost like, because he had a couple of them, and he also had a urology appointment, and he had extremely low testosterone. So bad testosterone. We did acupuncture. The acupuncturist said his kidneys were not warm. So he would put this box of herbs on his kidneys. So it was all about the kidneys too. I also asked the urologist at that appointment, I said, what about an IUI? And this is, progressive of 2016. So this is somewhere in the summertime now. And because we were not doing treatment, so I didn't go back to that office right away. And The urologist is like, no, not gonna work. So with sperm that low and the count that low and motility, I mean, it was just, and then morphology wasn't great either. I mean, all three things were not good. So, and, you know, especially numbers. Anyway, so I thought, I want to try an IUI anyway. November of 2016, we tried an IUI. And I think at one point his numbers went up to like 6 million or something like that. But still, motility and morphology were not good. And I can't remember all the, I mean, I have thrown all that paperwork away now. I got rid of it. But I held on to it for a long time. So in November of 2016, we did an IUI. You know, gave a sample and I was ovulating. And so, you know, you call when, you know, when you're ready to go, you make the appointment and everything. So we went in, he gave a sample, they did the wash. So when the nurse came in because it's never the doctor that does the IUI, it's the nurse that does the actual IUI. She said, she gave us a number, and it wasn't great, but then she said it was 7% motility. And when I did the math, I think I did the math. I think it was 7% of the number, of the total number that was there. And I'm like, okay, so that's about 500,000 sperm, you know, like just put them in and I will pray to God for a miracle that he will deliver. I always prayed, God, deliver that sperm to my egg, deliver it, you know, supernaturally deliver that sperm to my egg. So we did that IUI and of course it didn't work. I did not get pregnant from that. I came to find out, I did do a video on this like a couple months ago, and I lost it, of course, and or got erased. It was on an older camera, and so I lost the video footage. But in that video, I had my phone in my hand because I was going to tell you all some numbers of some tests that I had taken. Well, when I was looking at that, I actually found that test, that IUI information. And so like right in the front of the camera, I saw that I didn't have 7% motility post-wash. That was pre-wash. So post-wash, it was recorded that there was 0% progressive motility. I don't know if you know much about progressive motility. I'm sure you do if you're watching this video. Progressive motility are the sperm that are actually going somewhere. Are those sperm in that video that are all flowing together and traveling and going to the egg. I about lost my mind because I thought she knowingly put in dead sperm into me for my IUI. There was 0 progressive motility. The sperm were not going anywhere post-wash, and she went ahead and did the IUI anyway. And I never, you know, and this is 2 years later. So because it's 2019 now, but I can't remember when I made this video, it was last fall that, you know, the video got lost. But it was last fall that I tried to make this video before and found that out, and I wanted to call, but it's 2 years later, you know. Shame on me for not following up in my patient portal to look for those results, because I didn't, you know. There were so many other results that I looked up. I always looked up my test scores, or, you know, like of all my tests and everything. And sorry, I feel winded. I'm like trying to get all this out and I'm like panting. That was bad. I just can't believe that. And my insurance sometimes would come back and say, we're not going to cover it because you're old. You know, you're like, oh, we only cover, you know, this and that if you're under 41. Well, I'm 41 now, so it was like 40 or under, or something like that. And then they do up to 44, I think. Like, we'll cover it up to 44 years old. So, and then sometimes they would cover it, but for the most part, I think the IUIs were around $300 or something like that. And so that was the end of 2016. So by that point, I was like, what are we gonna do? You know, And there was some fighting, just and, talk of divorce. But I'm like, no, we need to stay together, because just the thought of separating was just the most horrible thing to me, that usually means you're with the right person if you can't imagine your life without them. I would pray about this and be like, God, I would get mad at God too. I'm like, God, why did you let this happen to me? Why would you let me marry someone who can't give me children? Of all the men in the world that I could have met, and I just was so angry about that. I would cry just about every day. I'd go home from the appointments crying and just screaming and wondering why God was letting this happen to me, and where is he? Where are you, God? I was always saying that, where are you? Where are you in this? I just, and I just know that bad things happen to good people too. Not saying I'm good, but it's just bad things happen to everybody that, and the whole God is not a respecter of persons, meaning, some of the worst things can happen to some of the most wonderful people in the world. And it's not because you did anything to deserve it, or, you failed at this, and so you're going to get, struck down. And, God loves all of us the same. And he has died on the cross for every single one of us the same. And so I knew in my heart, God loves me and he wants this for me. So why won't he just heal my husband and let him give me babies? I'd always pray, heal him, heal his sperm, heal whatever's going on, and let us just do this. But it just wouldn't. In the midst of 2016, I lost my job. But I was glad to go. I'm like, I can't stand this anymore. I don't want to be here. And my coworker who I shared these things with, she went and got pregnant right off the bat after getting married, was complaining about it constantly because she was super sick. And so she said, I'm never doing this again, like one morning. And I just wanted to scream at her, like, how dare you say that in front of me, knowing what I'm going through, because I had, told them what was going on. And for her to say that right in front of me, I just was so upset. So I didn't want to be around her either. I didn't want to be around her, growing belly and talking about her pregnancy and stuff. So I was glad to go. And that was in May of 2016. So I went the rest of the year with no job, just staying at home, trying to do yoga, walking the dogs, and losing my mind. And then that IUI was in November of 2016, unsuccessful. And then the turn of the year happened and I got a new job. It was a horrible job in a call room at a dermatologist's office. And it was, so bad. But I got that at the very end of December because I felt bad for not having a job. And so in January, I'm not kidding, I woke up one morning and I'm like, we're doing IVF, period. We're gonna do it. And so I called. By then, I did not ever want to go back to that geneticist again because of his front desk staff when I was on the phone with them the previous summer, after the semen analysis and all that kind of stuff, that lady that was the retired cop or whatever, she was so rude to me. I got off the phone and bawled my eyes out because she was so rude. And I'm like, we're not going there ever. And so that meant we had to drive up to Tampa, and that's an hour away. And so, but fine, whatever, I'll do whatever it takes. I thought I will do whatever it takes. I can't believe it. I'm gonna do IVF. So got the consultation. So that's another $100 and some. And you gotta wait 3 weeks, and then you finally get the consultation, and then they're like, you have to take an IVF class. Had to wait a couple weeks for that. An IVF class where you sit in an auditorium with 200 other people, and they have another doctor who's a speaker and a nurse standing beside him, and they have a slideshow, and they go over IVF with everybody before they begin. And it was mandatory. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I had to wait and lose another egg waiting for that, because by then I'm just on egg watch. Every single month I'm losing an egg, a valuable egg that could be my last. So very paranoid, very stressed out. I was clenching my teeth at night. Now I have a tiny little gap right here. I had it when I was little and I had braces, and I mean, for the last 25 years, my teeth have not moved, and it was in this last year or two of all this IVF pressure and stress and everything. I was clenching my front teeth at night and spreading my teeth apart, because when you clench them, you spread them apart a little bit doing that. And now they're staying that way. And so that's upsetting. So my husband and I are sitting in this auditorium with not one seat wasn't filled. And it was 238 capacity or something like that. And I'm looking around, we're looking around, and my husband's like, this is a lot of money. Couldn't believe the money in that room, that they're gonna get from all these desperate people. I mean, and they were everybody was you look around these room, good looking young people. I mean, it's not like they were, these old people like us. They were young, healthy, they looked healthy, good looking people that can't have babies. And they're in this room and they're desperate, and people have got notepads, and they're just on the edge of their seats watching this presentation. And it was just like, wow, I can't believe this. And so we got through it and everything. And the speaker was a male doctor, and I really liked him, but I didn't want a male doctor. I've never wanted male doctors ever. I always want female doctors because I'm private. I just want women. So, but I thought, man, I wish he was my doctor, because he even said at the podium that he could bring a woman out of menopause. And I thought, yeah, right, but I didn't. I thought, wow, that's awesome. So anyway, we finally get through that. We start the appointments, and I chose a location closer to me. It wasn't Tampa, it was Brandon, which was about 40 minutes away from where we were living at the time. And they couldn't get their acts together. They couldn't, every time I would show up for something, they were, oh, we need your blood for this. And we need, oh, I'm glad your husband's here because we need his blood for that. And we were so unimpressed with the disorganization of it all. And I think finally I said something to the female doctor that I had chosen. And she said, oh yeah, because like I would call the IVF, what are they called? IVF, she put it together. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, but she would never call me back. And then I would call and call and call, and she would never call me back, and the doctor's like, oh, she's having personal problems. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she had me fill out a complaint form about her. So I'm like, that's weird and awkward that a doctor, is she trying to get her fired, and she doesn't have that power to fire her because it's a group. And so it has to be done through a process. Oh, and also when I had the consultation with this female doctor, I went through all of my tests. So I had to do my HSG, where they put the dye up in your uterus and it goes out your fallopian tubes. All was clear, all was perfect. Every test I took was perfect, except for my I can't even talk, my FSH. And it was at a 14, big deal. I watched videos where the lady was like, yeah, my FSH was like at a 59. And then, but they're like, oh, that's high, because it should be like 3 to 10 or something like that. And then, but then it all came down to my AMH. So my ovarian reserve, come to find out, my ovarian reserve at the time, I believe was 0.39 or something like that, 0.39. I mean, that is so low. So now not only does my husband not have any sperm, but now they're saying that my fertility is also low and bad. But I'm just like, I know that they told me, okay, that it's so low, but I ovulate every month. And so there's still an egg coming out of me every single month. And I believe that I am healthy and fertile. So to me, it didn't matter that my ovarian reserve was low because I still had eggs coming out. But they just doomed and gloomed me. They condemned me to infertility. No encouragements really from any of these people. But she was nice though. And she actually has a YouTube video also of her doing IVF. They caught some IVF transfers on YouTube too. So, but no hope for me. But we were still headed toward the process. I hadn't paid yet, I don't think. Finally, we had to just leave that group, the Brandon office, because they couldn't get their acts together. It was so unorganized and so bad. Okay, before we left them, basically, I had signed up for the Attain program, where it's like $22,300, I believe. And you have to go through another loan place to get the loan for that, for the Attain program. And they give you 3 cycles, 2 egg retrievals, and they're like, you know, so that the pressure's off to just get pregnant and not worry about it. Well, so I thought, well, that's great. That's a good, we'll do that. So I signed up for it and I did it. So we started my first cycle, and I did the birth control for 2 weeks, and we did the testing of the follicles. You know, I did the ultrasound and everything, and the blood test at the end of the 2 weeks said that my estrogen, because my estrogen was so high naturally, so my estrogen started out at like a 600, and when they want you to start stimulations, it had to be below 90. And so after that first 2 weeks, I think I was only down by 200. So I was like at a 4 something. And they're like, that's too high. We have to cancel your cycle. And I think the first time they added an additional week, so that they said you couldn't be on it more than the 3 weeks before they had to just cancel your cycle and start over again. And I think at one time I did do that, and I went the 3 weeks, and it still was like 200 and something. So they totally canceled my cycle, and without missing a beat just said, well, we'll just have to cancel your cycle. And so just when you have a regular cycle, call us back. And I'm like, that's it? You know, so they were basically saying I had to have a regular period. And then after that, when I have my next period, call them and we'll try it again. And I was so mad because I thought, you're not telling me to do anything differently. You're not telling me to change anything. You're not giving me a medication that's going to assist in bringing down my estrogen level. You're relying on the pills alone to do that. And I was so mad because they weren't doing anything. They're just, oh well, we'll try again. Well, come to find out, Attain considered that cycle 1 of the 3 they're going to give me. And when you use them up, you're in debt, that $22,300. That is your debt. And to have them, and if I can't get past the birth control, then too bad, so sad. I owe $22,000 for nothing. So I was so crazy mad. I called Attain. I said, I want off of this. I want out of this loan. Nobody told me that. I didn't know, you know, so I just got, and they relieved me from it. Like, I got out of it in time. So I got rid of the loan, so I didn't have to pay anything for that. And that was good. So don't ever do Attain. Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe they called that cycle 1 and you get 3 cycles with Attain. They couldn't even get me past the birth control. I was very upset with that and just decided I wanted away from these people anyway. I left them and I went back to the geneticist. I thought, I will deal with the horrible office people if that's what it takes to have a baby with my husband. Go back to the doctor in Sarasota, set up all the appointments, do all the embarrassing exams. But he was so nice though. Like, I really do like him. I still have nice thoughts about him today, but I do not have nice thoughts about his front desk staff. Because there was a time where So basically, so I had to get the money together. It was $12,000 and some odd change to start the IVF process. And I had the medication already because I had ordered it already. So, and insurance covered that almost completely. I paid maybe $100 and it was $6,000 worth of injectable medications. It was unbelievable. So I thought, wow, at least I have good insurance. And then, but the $12,000 had to come from somewhere. So I had to open up another credit card and all they would give me was $11,000. So, but I had another credit card. Thought I will go into financial ruin. I don't care. I will do whatever it takes. I'm doing this. I'm going to have a baby with my husband. And so, but I applied for that card and it was on its way. Well, his staff members were like, you need to pay. Like it was almost like mafia style where she took me into the back room and it wasn't the ex-cop. It was the nice one that I thought was a good person. Took me into the office and she's like, if you don't pay us, we're going to cancel your cycle. And I'm like, you know, and what happened was the card had not been sent to my house that we moved to. It was sent to my old house because by that time we had moved in April. In April of 2017, we moved into a new house. The bank sent it to the old house and then it was returned to them and they were just sitting on it. They never contacted me about the fact that my new card that I had applied for had been returned to them. So just days were going by and I'm like, and it was getting close to the due date for the, you know, the money to be due. I know. He wants to go on a walk. And so this is Finley and he wants to go on a walk. I know you do. And so, I'm just like, it's on its way. And like I would get on the phone with the customer service of the bank and I was screaming at them. I was just losing my mind. I'm screaming at them. I need my account number. And they're like, ma'am, we can't give it to you. And it's just, like, I have never been so angry consistently in my whole life as that year of dealing with, like, there was always a speed bump. There was always something in the way. I couldn't get the card on time. They're going to cancel my cycle, you know, because I can't pay and, you know, or whatever. And I'm just, there was always something wrong, always a hurdle to jump. And so I finally get the card and I finally pay them. We finally did and check this out. So I'm totally low ovarian reserve and he puts me on 4 straight weeks of active birth control. I thought that was so wrong, but who am I? I'm not a doctor. And see, when I was starting to do it with the reproductive medicine group, I always had 5 follicles that were coming up. So I knew to expect 5 follicles to come up. So, but then when I switched to the other place, and here I start this cycle again with 4 weeks of birth control. When I had the ultrasound, only 1 follicle was coming up. And they try to blame that on me and try to tell me that I'm a poor responder. And I even watched poor responder videos. Like what, you know, and just because of your age and low ovarian reserve, they're calling you a poor responder, which I don't think is accurate at all. So, but this was ridiculous. I thought you over suppressed my ovaries. And of course I'm not gonna have any eggs because you killed them. You killed my ovaries with the 4 weeks of birth control. And then I think there were a couple trying to come up too, but there was basically the one that was so far ahead of the little tiny ones that were trying to come. I mean, my body was fighting to ovulate. And so we do we watch a video on I had my husband watch the video on how to give the HCG shot. So we got to that point where I did stimulations for the 9 days. It was 9 or 10 days of the injectables. I was freaking out at night. I think the first night of injections, I was supposed to have them all done by 9 o'clock. That's when I chose, or they said do it between 6 and 9 o'clock. But by then it was like 10:30 and I hadn't done it yet because I was freaking out, not knowing how to mix the stuff, because the reproductive medicine group went over everything with me. So I had kind of an idea, but when I went in for my consultation with this other place, the nurse sat in front of me and basically just told me, okay, so it's 3 powders for every 1 liquid, for the Menopur. And so she kind of went over that with me, but it was not a hands-on, draw the syringe back, how do you get air bubbles out or whatever. And I was freaking out thinking, I'm going to kill myself on these injections. I'm going to kill myself. And the needles were long. And I had to watch more and more videos on people showing how to give injections until I finally was able to do it. And so that was a nightmare. But I finally figured it out. I got good at it. And I just couldn't believe that they were letting people who have no medical experience whatsoever draw up these medications and inject them. And another thing, the medications are so expensive, you can't waste it. You can't make a mistake. You make a mistake, you have to order more, and who knows how much that's going to cost. So much pressure and anxiety in taking these injectable medications for me. To not have that knowledge and be expected to do it at home on my own freaked me out. But if I did it, and he had me doing them in my thigh, and it hurt so bad. And I guess I was down too far, and it was actually injecting it into the muscle when it had to be up higher into the more fattier area. But it just hurt so bad and bruised. And it just, at one point I felt the medication literally travel from my thigh all the way down to my foot. It was so gross, and it bled, and it was so awful. And we finally get the HCG shot. My husband did an awesome job. I was so proud of him. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even feel it. 2 days later, I have the blood test to double check that I'm ready to go. And my surgery date was set for that Monday or Tuesday, I think it was. Yeah, it was for Tuesday. Monday at 3:30, the doctor calls me personally to tell me that they're going to have to cancel my cycle because my blood test showed that 1 follicle they were going to retrieve. Because they asked me, they said, okay, you have 1 follicle that's there. Do you want to cancel and try to get more, or do you want to retrieve the follicle? And I really had to think about it, because I was like, and I asked my husband, I said, this could be our baby. This could be our baby. And so I was going to go ahead with it. I was going to do it. And anyway, he called me that Monday and said, your blood test showed that egg is starting to degenerate. And so I just felt so defeated after that. And I got off he said, so we can try again, or if you want a refund, you'll have to call for a refund. I got off the phone with him and probably cried. I can't remember. Or maybe I was just numb because I was just so sick of it all. Eventually I called back in a week and told her that I wanted my refund. So I think they charged me about $3,000 for the services that they did do. And then I got $9,000 refund. So that was good. And I thought, I'm never going to them again. I mean, one time when I was in the office, and I think it was when that whole mafia scene, and then they said, go back, have a seat in the reception area, and we'll call you back in or whatever. I remember coming out of, and they would always confiscate your cell phone. They would always make you put it in a dish. And so I started leaving it in the car. That's just so you couldn't take videos and stuff inside. And so I remember sitting back out in the reception area, and there was another couple waiting to be seen. And I burst into tears, started sobbing into my hands on the couch I was sitting on. And then I look up at them and I said, this is the worst experience of my life. And then I put my hands back my face back in my hands again and just cried. And then they're like, and they were Russian too. So they started speaking in Russian to each other. And then when they were called back, I think she stood up and said something nice to me. And I thought, oh, that was nice. She said something nice to me. So I'll tell you what happened. So basically, yeah, I left them, decided I'm leaving them for good. And so I thought, I'm gonna go back to the reproductive medicine group because they are my only option at this point, because I can't drive to Orlando. That's a 2-hour drive from here, and to do that there and back, forget it, no way. Couldn't do that. So I thought I'll have to go back to the reproductive medicine group, but I'm gonna try to get that male doctor that led the IVF class. So that's what I did. And I will tell you all about that in my next video. Thank you very much. Bye.